Really should feel good about where we are.
In all, it will cost nearly $1 billion to repair the damage from last year's flooding. In Yellowstone National Park, I'm John Shearer.
Fun, friendship, feathers, and fresh eggs? What's not to like? More and more families are discovering the benefits of swapping a typical pet for hens. So we're looking at life with backyard chickens.
Sure, cats and dogs are great, but if you want a loving pet who will home deliver fresh eggs, try a chicken.
They're entertaining to watch, they're entertaining to feed, and they're beautiful to look at.
Tiffany Lilly, owner of Inspire Farms in Mesa, Arizona, gives us her tips on how to raise chickens in your backyard. Let's start with where to find chickens.
I wouldn't even know where to begin. Where does one go to procure a chicken?
People go to a farm store or a tractor supply or a unique boutique like Inspire Farms.
Farm and tractor stores may only have them during chick season, though,
which is the spring, a little bit before and a little bit after spring.
But once you have hens and they lay their eggs, you can grow your flock year-round using an incubator, which is a nesting bed and heat lamps.
Do you have to gather them out of the hen house, put them in an incubator?
Yes, but I always tell people the chickens are the pros. If you have a chicken that wants to go broody and sit on eggs, then by all means, she's going to do a better job.
Next, how to tend to your hens.
Do I feed them the same thing throughout their life?
No, so when you bring home your baby chicks, you're going to feed them a chick starter, which is higher in protein than layer food, and it has no calcium because they don't need that yet.
Most feed companies recommend switching to adult food when the chicks get to about 15 weeks. Bonus, adult chickens also eat insects and bugs in the yard. And don't forget about where they're housed.
A good coop would be a roost that has at least 1 foot of space per adult hen.
You'll also want a nesting box where they can lay eggs, and plenty of water, heat lamps, and room to roam.
When we let our chickens out once a day, they have the whole pasture.
Finally, the benefits of having chickens.
Top 3 reasons to keep backyard chickens would be, number 1 is topsoil improvement.
Chickens add nutrition and nitrogen back to the soil. Second, there's nothing like a fresh egg.
The third awesome benefit for keeping chickens is the relationship.
Welcome to the world of fresh eggs.
This guy's giving me a little...
Oh, is he? Oh, that's happy sounds.
Happy sounds?
Happy sounds.
I'm Jimmy Rhodes, reporting.
I'm Chris Shaw. Here are Monday's top stories. Today, crews will start working on a couple of new traffic signals for Fort Myers Beach. It's part of a project to improve traffic flow at the foot of the Matanzas Pass Bridge. Lights will go up at Estero Boulevard and 5th Street and San Carlos Boulevard and Main Street. Later this week, there will be road closures so crews can install the foundation for the light poles. That work will be done at night from 7 until 7 in the morning. The project was approved last year before the hurricane and was scheduled to happen between now and September outside of season. There's a boil water notice right now for parts of Fort Myers. The city says a water main broke on Rockville Road, which is just east of Dunbar High School. The city says as a precaution, a boil water notice is in effect for the addresses you see on your screen. The city says people who live here should boil water before they drink it, cook with it, brush their teeth, or wash dishes. The city says it will continue to test the water. We'll let you know when that order is lifted. If you're looking for a job, the school district of Lee County will have a recruitment fair this afternoon. It'll be a virtual recruitment fair, and it'll go from 2 to 3:30. The school district is looking to hire teachers and school counselors. For more information, you can go to leeschools.net.
Time to get you a check of the forecast. I'm meteorologist Trent Eric. This afternoon, we're going to see sunny and hot conditions with our high up around 93. That is above our average of 91 as that wind comes out of the southwest. We will see a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly inland, and then another warm overnight. Temperatures in the upper 70s, and that's just on our way to another day in the low 90s. We stay hot and fairly dry with most of the showers inland and over on the other coast. You can track the rain anytime at fox4now.com.
This is what it looked like yesterday, shortly after the shooting. Cape Coral police say Roland Hale and his roommate were arguing and that he destroyed several of her things.
This is Fox 4 News at 5.
And thanks for joining us here on Fox 4 News at 5. I'm Shari Armstrong. Tonight we start in North Fort Myers, where Lee County deputies made an arrest in a kidnapping case. Fox 4 reporter Brianna Brownlee is at the scene of that arrest tonight and has that story for you.
I am here outside of Club Romance, located on Palm Beach Boulevard, and here is where LCSO deputies say a woman was kidnapped and later raped after she accepted a ride home. Now, earlier today, I was speaking with workers here, and they did tell me that they have seen this woman here multiple times as a regular. However, for that suspect, they've never seen him before. 24-year-old Julio Velazquez is the man behind bars for the kidnapping and rape. Sheriff Carmine Marcino tells Fox 4 that after a night at the club, the victim didn't have a ride home, and when she was outside waiting, the suspect, Velazquez, saw her and offered her a ride. Chef Carmine Marcino says she told investigators that when she noticed he wasn't driving to her home, she asked him to stop the truck and harmed herself with a broken bottle. Sheriff Marcino adds the suspect overpowered the victim and punched her several times until she was knocked out. The victim told deputies when she woke up to the suspect raping her and threatening to kill her before she was able to get away and hide in the woods. Investigators say she was able to knock on several doors before finding someone to call 911.
You know, when you're leaving a place, especially early morning hours, okay, just be very careful. Again, there's no blame on the victim, zero blame on the victim. It's so unfortunate, but we want people to be safe moving forward where they're not just getting in a vehicle with someone they don't know.
Deputies were able to locate the suspect's truck near a smoke shop on Ortiz and Tice. Now, Marcino did say that the suspect is living in Lee County illegally. As for the victim, he says she is alive and she is recovering. In Fort Myers, Brianna Brownlee, Fox 4.
Anna, thank you so much. Tonight, police say they are still investigating the death of an elderly man in Cape Coral shot by officers. The Cape Coral Police Department say it happened last night on Northeast 5th Lane, right near Pine Island Road in Del Prado. Police say it started when 73-year-old Roland Henry Hale and a roommate got into a disagreement. Investigators say they responded to that home, as you see here, where they found Hale drunk. And as they tried to calm him down, they say that's when he pulled out a gun.
Mr. Hale became agitated, was resistant to those efforts, and his demeanor became heightened.
And so that is when officers shot Hale several times and Hale died at the scene. Police say officers had responded to the home twice on Saturday night, but those situations did not escalate. Well, per protocol, both of the officers involved are on administrative leave. They were wearing body cameras, but it's going to take time before that's released to the public, as, of course, this is still under investigation. At 5:02 this afternoon, let's get you a check of your weather with Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley. Andrew, it was hot outside today. My goodness.
Yes, it was hot outside. Still hot out there, Shari. We're also tracking a few showers dissipating here inland. One over Venus, just north of Palmdale, up along 27 at this time, and a couple little showers out towards Lehigh, and then down just along 29. But that's about it for us. Most of us are dealing with the sunshine at this hour. Take a look here in Cape Coral, where we are looking at partly cloudy skies. But Cape did get some rain earlier today, about 3/4 of an inch in downtown Cape. Places like Port LaBelle, close to an inch worth of rain. Ave Marie as well, just shy of that 1 inch mark for us. But the big story that everybody's talking about is the humidity. We are seeing that in the humid range with dew points at around 70 degrees for you, which means those feels like temperatures in the triple digits here this evening. Feeling like 100 degrees in Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, Naples, feeling like 102 down in Golden Gate. And this is going to be the story of the week, all week long. I'll break down what you can expect. That coming up.
Early this morning, Andrew, thank you so much. Well, those of you living in Fort Myers on or near Rockville Road, you might want to boil your water for the next few days because the city says a water main broke today. So that's why there is now a precautionary notice now in place. So even if you're not directly on that road, I want you to look at this map. We're showing you the areas on your screen also affected. Repairs are underway. This type of notice means you'll want to boil water before using it to cook, drink, brush your teeth, or wash dishes. And they say, of course, you can use bottled water too. I know you might not have seen that map, but we have it on our website for you. You can go to fox4now.com, and of course we'll keep you updated when that notice is lifted. Well, if the area around your home in Cape Coral is prone to flooding, we are learning tonight that several city projects to address those issues were put on hold after Hurricane Ian. Fox 4's Colton Chavez, who spent the last 2 years addressing flooding concerns across Southwest Florida, found out the city of Cape Coral delayed 8 of their drainage improvement projects, including the one right there on Hancock Bridge Parkway, where Colton reports tonight that concerns are once again increasing.
Well, for drivers like these on Hancock Bridge Parkway, they probably have no idea that this area is prone to flooding. But for people who call this area of the Cape home, when they hear the news that projects to fix flooding issues are delayed, they say looming clouds like that bring with it a daily threat. And that's because homeowners like Rafael Rodriguez are seeing this. Cell phone video captured just last week of an afternoon storm that Rafael says was once again causing his property to flood on Hancock Bridge Parkway. It's an issue I first spoke with Rafael about last September, just 2 weeks before Hurricane Ian, when the city of Cape Coral said they were in the process of conducting a drainage improvement project to fix the flooding on Rafael Street. For Rafael, the news that the project was delayed by the storm only means one thing.
All properties are going to be messy.
A spokesperson with the city of Cape Coral says the Hancock Bridge Parkway Improvement Project, along with 7 other city drainage improvement projects, are now back on track. And once again, when we're talking about the construction project here on Hancock Bridge Parkway, the city of Cape Coral says they should have that design complete by December, and then hopefully after that is when we'll start to see boots on the ground actually starting to address this issue. In Cape Coral, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Colton, thank you. Keeping an eye on construction. There's a new traffic signal. The project officially started there on Fort Myers Beach today. And in case you live there, you plan to take a quick trip, we've got some details you should know about. The Lee County Department of Transportation says they're going to be contractors working to install that signal right at Estero Boulevard and Crescent Street. Now, the project is expected to end in September, so it's going to be going on for a few months. So until then, keep an eye out for changes in traffic patterns and be prepared to maybe take an alternate route.
Increased security preparations are underway outside the Miami federal courthouse ahead of former President Trump's arraignment there tomorrow. Trump is facing 37 counts in a federal indictment related to how he handled classified documents after leaving office. The indictment says those documents include material on nuclear programs and a Pentagon attack plan. Trump is calling on his supporters to join a planned protest outside the courthouse tomorrow. He says there are no circumstances whatsoever under which he would leave the 2024 race.
Mar-a-Lago is a place where many of the former president's most diehard supporters gather, whether he is in town or not. Within the first 5 pages of this 49-page indictment, special counsel Jack Smith lays out that Mar-a-Lago is not just a private residence for the former president, but this is a social club that held more than 150 events between the time the former president left office in January 2021 and August of 2022. Tens of thousands of people without security clearance coming through this property during that time. And that's what makes these images so concerning. When you see the boxes on the stage in a ballroom or stacked high inside of a bathroom. Over the weekend, supporters of the former president, allies of the former president standing by his side. But former Attorney General Bill Barr had this to say about the indictment.
Even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment. And it's very, very damning.
The former president responded to that statement by his former attorney general with a post on Truth Social, his social media platform, calling Barr a disgruntled former employee. As far as here at Mar-a-Lago, we are expecting supporters over the next couple of days to gather for the former president. This was the scene over the weekend, about 50 of his supporters arriving here outside of Mar-a-Lago. It will be interesting to see what the scene will not just look like here over the next couple of days, but of course in Miami ahead of that Tuesday court appearance. Chris Stewart, Scripps News, Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, coming up on Fox 4 News at 5:30, we're going to take a look at what legal hoops the former president's lawyers still have to jump through right here in Florida. Plus, a sinkhole in Lakeland has authorities on edge tonight. How crews are working to fill it after it caused damage to homes in a private community.
Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing medicine, from analyzing imaging to helping doctors diagnose diseases. Now, new research shows it could be used to help predict and even prevent the largest cause of natural death in the U.S.
I think this could revolutionize the way we make sudden cardiac death prevention.
Sudden cardiac death kills more than 300,000 adults in this country each year, according to the Cleveland Clinic. It's responsible for half of all heart disease deaths. In a new study, an artificial intelligence model correctly identified patients at risk of ventricular tachycardia. VTAC is a condition in which the lower chambers of the heart beat very quickly and is a major cause of sudden cardiac death. A team of doctors from around the world recently presented the findings at the Heart Rhythm Society's annual meeting. They say the findings come at a time when traditional methods for predicting sudden cardiac death are limited.
Currently, there is no such AI tools available for clinical practice. So we are at the very beginning. This is the beginning of the history of AI in medicine.
He says the technology could be life-saving for people who suffer from conditions like hypertension, obesity, and diabetes by offering early interventions. Researchers are currently looking to validate the model in clinical trials.
This is an incredible story of survival. So a Pinellas County woman is expected to survive after she was shot 11 times. The situation, which later turned into a 10-hour standoff, actually started about around 1 in the morning on Sunday. That's when Pinellas County deputies were called to this neighborhood. There, they found that woman who not only ran to a neighbor's home to get help after being shot, but was also able to warn officers that the person who shot her might still be in the home with several guns.
It's amazing. You think of somebody who's been shot that many times that is still able to walk out of her house, walk across the street to a neighbor and tell them what happened.
Deputies were able to get inside of that home after hours, and that is where they found Wayne Lovell-Dew dead. They do believe that he shot himself. She is expected to survive that victim. Incredible story there. So look at this. Crews are in the process of trying to fill a massive sinkhole, as you see here, that opened up in Lakeland this weekend. It is a 75-foot sinkhole right near a private community. And right now, emergency crews are not only warning families about potential threats from this to their homes, but they're also trying to figure out how to fill it. Now, there is no definite cause on what exactly happened here, but they think it might be well connected to a well that was drilled earlier this year.
Some showers out there, but a lot quieter than we've been pretty much all afternoon. Just up in the Palmdale area there in Glades County. That's the only really spot I'm watching. Most of us are actually dealing with some sunshine. Take a look outside. This is the Bayfront Inn down in the Naples area. The only concern there is it is pretty darn toasty out there, especially when you add in the humidity. Take a look at feels like temperatures still at this time. 100 degrees feels like in Naples, Immokalee, 101, Lehigh. How about Cape Coral, feeling like 100 degrees still at this time, despite actual temperatures being in the upper 80s and low 90s. But if we're looking at just the next couple hours here, we are expecting temperatures really slow to cool here. Actually, still going to be in the 80s as we approach midnight tonight, but clear skies, humid conditions is expected pretty much all night long, and really ultimately only cooling off to about 78 degrees. The normal low is about 73. So above normal temperatures are expected for you here tonight. As for tomorrow, though, more of the same. We're keeping that heat on. Actual temperatures sitting in the low to mid 90s out there. Say Cape Coral right at 90 degrees, 93 in Fort Myers, as well as Immokalee, LaBelle out towards Moorhaven, 94, Palmdale, 95 in Arcadia. Though you add in the humidity, most of us are going to be dealing with those triple-digit feels like temperatures out there tomorrow. So I do have some tips for you to make sure you are safe in the heat. Making sure you wear that light-colored, loose-fitting clothing helps keep you a little cooler. Plenty of water, non-alcoholic fluids that keep you hydrated there. Limiting that outdoor activity especially during the peak times of the day and strenuous activity. Also watching, make sure your kids are not in closed spaces, as well as your pets there, and maybe finding the AC to cool off there. But another maybe step for you, maybe jump in the Gulf. Gulf temperatures sitting at 87 degrees, still a little warm there. there, but cooler than the air temperatures. Surf 1 foot or less, low rip current risk out there tomorrow. As for the day itself, though, sunshine in the morning hours, though you get in towards about 1, 2 o'clock. That's when we'll be watching shower storms bubbling up inland. Glades, Henry, inland, Collier County, pushing out towards Lake Okeechobee as we get towards the 3 o'clock hour. So I think we should be nice and dry up near the coastline for you. Inland, we will be tracking those showers and storms pushing up towards the East Coast. East Coast seeing the majority of any rain out there tomorrow. But how much rain we're talking? Well, kind of hit and miss. Pockets could see upwards of a quarter inch to an inch worth of rain. But again, inland is where we're going to see majority of those shower and storm chances. As for the week ahead, though, we are expecting inland storms really to be the story of the week here. Plus, the warm temperature sitting in the low to mid 90s, what feels like temperatures up into the triple digits over the next 7 days.
Well, it may not be the end of wildfire smoke from Canada impacting the U.S. Wildfires raging across Canada could burn all summer long. That's the new warning from the federal agency Natural Resources Canada. Now, officials are forecasting above normal fire activity across most of the country through September. More than 400 wildfires are burning in Canada right now. U.S. health leaders are paying close attention to the current flu activity in Australia. Some parts of the country are already seeing a spike in illness. Most cases are among children. U.S. health leaders say it could be a signal of what's to come here in the U.S. They usually look at Australia to try and anticipate exactly how bad the flu will get when our season starts in the fall.
Answering questions about your previous employment salary during the hiring process could become a thing of the past. At least that's the Biden administration's plan. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management recently proposed a new rule that would ban government agencies from asking prospective hires about their salary history. These types of questions are already banned in these 20 states. This proposal would only impact hiring practices for the federal government, but employment experts say this could set a major precedent for the rest of the country to follow suit.
So we are seeing quite a few employers already following suit. And I imagine that they may start following suit even faster.
Employment lawyer for PayScale, Lulu Sinkholes, says regulations or bans on salary history questions have proven to reduce gender pay gaps, as well as pay gaps impacting minorities and people of color.
So here at PayScale, we're actually partnering with researchers at Stanford and Harvard to determine the efficacy of the salary history ban using PayScale's unique employee reported data. And early findings do suggest that salary history bans do decrease the gender pay gap while also increasing salary offers.
Sinkholes says knowing the regulations in the state or city where you're applying to work is very important. According to PayScale, only 42% of organizations do not ask salary history questions as a best practice, while 20% of companies will ask unless it is explicitly illegal, and 11% of companies ask regardless of laws that are already in place.
The next time you eat out at a restaurant, you'll most likely have to pull out your phone to view their menu. That's because more businesses are using QR codes. They're these little black and white squares that store pieces of information. Images can be instantly scanned by your smartphone's camera, allow you to view menus, order food, and even pay your bill. Industry experts say the technology improves labor efficiency and helps restaurants save on cost.
The price of all ingredients has certainly gone up, and having a QR code menu definitely saves costs for restaurants. And so, by not having to print out copies and put them in new sleeves and what have you, that saves them time and money.
Although restaurant operators seem to like QR codes, several customers do not. According to a recent survey by William Blair, 47% of consumers say they're not comfortable using QR codes in restaurants. Privacy concerns may be a big reason why.
I do think that if you're booking a restaurant reservation, you're basically giving up your privacy to some degree. You're giving your credit card, you're giving your contact information, you're giving your name and address. And essentially, if you're going out to dinner these days, they might know who you are, and whether you go to the restaurant 20 times in the last year as soon as you walk in the door.
According to the study, people over 60 years old feel the most uneasy using QR codes, while younger adults between 18 and 29 are among the most comfortable using the technology.
Every area had its own challenges during and after Ian. The city of Northport is taking a look at what those were and how they can improve for the next storm. I'll explain what went well and what didn't next on Fox 4.
Now, from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 5.
Well, if you were outside at all today, whether you were working out or were actually working outside or just running some errands, you know it was absolutely hot out there. So I want to send you over to the Weather Center with Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley, because Andrew, we're going to see this heat throughout the week, this humidity, my goodness.
Yeah, it is warm out there, especially when you add in those feels like temperatures that heat in the sea. The muggy meter showing us somewhere between the humid range and the soupy range for us with that dew point right around 73. But just because it's humid out doesn't mean it's stormy out. Let's take a look outside. You are seeing, again, across the Caloosahatchee right now, actually mostly sunny skies. But if you're out spending out time and you're thinking, oh, it looks nice outside, oh, well, make sure you bring the water. As we're looking at, feels like temperatures 100 degrees in Cape, Port Charlotte, as well as Naples for you at this hour, though actual temperatures still in the 80s and 90s. But if we're looking at the next couple hours, we are expecting temperatures to stay in the 80s the rest of the evening. I'll break it down coming up.
Side of the road near Wiggins Pass Road and Colby Court. They also found large amounts of drugs ready for sale. That includes fentanyl, cocaine, and Adderall. Edrington's now facing multiple charges added onto separate felony charges for fleeing from deputies during a previous traffic stop, but not before handing them his driver's license. Well, if you smoke, please pay attention to this next story. This morning, Cape Fire says a fire started accidentally after the resident there thought he shot his oxygen off. He then lit a cigarette, and that's when the fire started. So Cape Fire says this is actually the second fire caused by a cigarette that they've responded to in less than a week. They recommend not smoking indoors, of course, while around flammable items. The good news here, both people inside and their dog made it out.
I'm Fox 4's Caitlin Knapp. 2 days after Ian, I was in Northport watching these airboats rescue people from the rising water coming from the Myakka River. City Mayor Barbara Langdon, Vice Mayor at the time, calls the community help a success, but says with the hurricane season here, the city is looking at ways to improve where they found those shortfalls. During Ian, Langdon says the Emergency Operations Center had communication and power failures, plus generators failed, all happening inside City Hall. One issue she really highlighted with me today, communication with other organizations and the people of Northport. Langdon says she's taking these challenges as lessons and bringing them to the table with solutions.
The city is aligning and integrating our infrastructure so that the city can break into WKDW's programming in times of emergency. Our intention is that we would be better able to communicate with the immediate Northport area.
On Monday, the city held a hurricane resiliency workshop discussing some of those long-term recovery efforts, along with what can be done now since we are in hurricane season. In an upcoming budget meeting, she expects them to look into a single building for the operations center and other upgrades. Looking at this bigger picture, Langdon says they know where the vulnerable points are. Between the flooding and eroded structures, there's work to be done. The city plans on addressing those through commission meetings over time. Reporting in studio, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
And speaking of Northport, the police station there is thinking outside of the box and up above when it comes to providing aid to areas hit hard by Hurricane Ian. They're using drones and other technologies like it to find people who are missing and to search remote areas that could be impacted by storms. That technology getting aerial footage, as you see here, it looks up, zooms in and out. The pictures then get sent to the Emergency Operations Center so they can determine where to send crews and resources. We actually spoke with pilot David Pulse, who says they've never used these during a hurricane before, but now they are essential.
A lot of times we were basically just flying the drones down the roadways that were covered in water, and people heard them and they came out waving so we could notate to our ground crews who needed to get evacuated from their home.
The department now actually has 13 drones in their fleet. They'll be using them in emergency situations in the future, they tell us. Well, taking a look across the state, flags are flying at half staff as 7 years ago, if you can imagine already. A shooter opened fire at Pulse nightclub in Orlando, devastating our state and our country. 49 people died and 53 were wounded, marking it at the time as the deadliest mass shooting in United States history. Governor DeSantis today directing the state to fly American and state of Florida flags at half staff from sunrise to sunset today. The governor in his statement marking the shooting as a horrific act of terrorism against the LGBTQ and Hispanic communities. Well, over the weekend, Republicans vying for the GOP presidential nomination solidified their positions on this historic federal indictment of a former president. That included Donald Trump himself, who condemned federal prosecutors with very familiar rhetoric. Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders taking a look to us from Tallahassee.
The former president kept his campaign stops over the weekend. Though Donald Trump's 37-count federal indictment loomed large, an unprecedented criminal allegation Trump labeled as ridiculous, while calling special counsel Jack Smith, quote, deranged in a personal attack.
And I watched him yesterday go up and talk. He talked for about 2.5 minutes. He was shaking. He was so scared. He didn't want to be there because ultimately these are cowards.
Trump's political rivals also weighing in, some running to his aid, not wanting to alienate the former president's base ahead of the primary.
And is there a different standard for a Democrat Secretary of State versus a former Republican president?
Governor Ron DeSantis in North Carolina drew a parallel to the Hillary Clinton email scandal, though the former Secretary of State's emails weren't deliberately withheld and there wasn't evidence of obstruction.
I think there needs to be one standard of justice in this country. Let's enforce it on everybody and make sure we all know the rules.
Longshot candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, meanwhile, vowed to pardon Trump if convicted, alleging a political motive.
Reading that indictment and looking at the selective omissions of both fact and law, Dana, I'm even more convinced that a pardon is the right answer here.
Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who's called on Trump to drop out, couldn't disagree more.
It is simply wrong for a candidate to use the pardon power of the United States, of the president, in order to curry votes and in order to get an applause line.
Others like Chris Christie weren't buying Trump's victim claims. The former New Jersey governor called the case facts devastating.
People are going to argue about who should and who should not have been indicted and who should be tried. But let me say this. The bigger issue for our country is this the type of conduct that we want from someone who wants to be president of the United States?
Ultimately, that question will be left to the voters as the 2024 GOP primary moves into uncharted waters, and the frontrunner's arraignment is now only hours away. At the Capitol, I'm Forrest Saunders, Fox 4.
Today, J.P. Morgan Chase announced a tentative settlement with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. A judge still has to approve the $290 million deal. Epstein's victims had accused the bank of giving Epstein a way to continue operating a sex trafficking operation, paying off his victims for years. The head of a Senate subcommittee is questioning the recently announced merger between the PGA Tour and Saudi Arabia's Live Golf. Senator Richard Blumenthal sent letters to both organizations today, asking for records about negotiations that led to the agreement and plans for what golf will look like going forward. There are questions about the reasons for the agreement and the terms behind it. Repairs of the collapsed interstate in Philadelphia are expected to take months. This is new video from today of first responders digging through the rubble. The collapse happened on Sunday when a tanker truck carrying flammable cargo caught fire under an overpass. Americans are getting more optimistic about inflation going down for now. New data out today from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows our inflation expectations fell in May to the lowest point in 2 years. People are feeling good about the job market and their ability to bring in and spend money, but they're less optimistic about their overall financial health and what happens with inflation longer term.
The same issues dividing the church have infiltrated the Southern Baptist as its 13 million members meet for their annual convention. All this comes 1 year after a report detailed allegations of years of sex abuse and cover-ups.
I thought truly maybe 100 people would read it, but if it helped just one person who had been through what I had been through, then it was worth it to me.
Jules Woodson remembers the day she went public about sex abuse she says she endured as a teen. She also remembers the church's backlash, even after her former pastor, who was now a popular megachurch preacher, admitted to the so-called sexual incident.
My abuser got a standing ovation for a faux apology, continued to heap shame and blame on me and call for cheap grace for himself.
Blame she'd felt before, saying she got a similar response when she told church leaders about the abuse 20 years ago.
They stopped me mid-sentence and said, "So you're telling me you participated?" And it was at that moment that I knew they were blaming me, and they told me not to talk about it, that the church would handle it. And It was horrifying.
She wasn't alone. Following a damning investigation from the Houston Chronicle, the SBC implemented a task force and commissioned an independent report confirming years of accusations of abuse and cover-ups. Since then, the SBC has promised to put measures in place to prevent abuse, telling Scripps News in a statement they're launching the Ministry Check website, an online database with a list of abusers this month. However, the website will require vetting and local churches to actually report abuse to be effective. Bob Smetana, a writer for Religion News Service, says changes are happening, but are challenging due to the somewhat autonomous nature of the churches.
If there's abuse by the priest, that priest was placed there by a bishop and is overseen by the bishop, and that parish is under the authority of the bishop. There's a direct line of authority. Here, this is a bunch of people who cooperate together, use the same name, have some shared values, but there's no one at the national office can tell that church what to do. The only thing they can do is expel them.
Southern Baptists broke away from Northern Baptists in the 1800s over the issue of slavery. Today, leaders from the church will gather in New Orleans to discuss the future and unity of its 13 million members, a number that's declined in recent years. According to Lifeway Research, a branch of the SBC, while baptisms and attendance in church are up, memberships overall declined by more than 400,000 members, its biggest dip in 100 years. Scott McConnell, executive director for Lifeway, tells Scripps News many older religious members are dying, and younger members aren't replacing them at the same pace, a trend seen across denominations. Smetana says the denomination's work is important because the SBC is a big humanitarian arm around the world, donating millions of dollars in global hunger relief and hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer and disaster work.
If these denominations, in particular, for example, in this case, Southern Baptists, can't figure out how to get along and can't continue doing this work, then it's going to affect a lot of people in unexpected ways.
Woodson says her focus now is twofold, rooting out sex abuse beyond the walls of the SBC while continuing to focus on the mission at home.
The moment we feel like we have everything figured out and solved is the moment we're vulnerable.
Meanwhile, Woodson tells us she started a nonprofit to help victims in and out of the church find the help they need. She's also fundraising to make sure that she and fellow survivors are present at this year's meeting. Amber Strong, Scripps News.
is back. Tonight, there's an alert in place from the Florida Department of Health in Lee County, warning you about the presence of blue-green algae in our waterways yet again. So if you're in the area of the Davis boat ramp, you're going to want to be aware that there's a bloom that's been detected in that area. The toxic algae is just one of really several bacterial blooms we battle as the weather gets warmer. We see this yearly. And tonight, Rochelle Aline with our script station WFTS in Tampa shows us how scientists are working to find solutions to these major algae concerns.
Ian's destructive path caused catastrophic flooding in many areas. And as many work to clean up the pieces left behind, some worry that all of that water mixing together could lead to harmful algal blooms. To learn more about the possibility,
this one also makes anatoxin.
We went down to Florida Gulf Coast University to talk to Dr. Barry Rosen,
So if I look down here,
who studies the bacteria that makes blue-green algae. And while he says the possibility for a blue-green bloom is technically there,
it may or may not be. It's a difficult thing to know exactly what's going to happen. That mix of compounds that flowed in with the hurricane.
he's also not totally convinced it will happen because of the very specific mixture of light and nutrients that need to be in place for a bloom. He also adds that the season for that type of bacteria is all but over.
They should be just about gone by now. Yeah, because they like warm weather.
But what Dr. Rosen does say is that some of that leftover bacteria, under the right conditions, could become food for a different but equally harmful bloom, red tide.
There is speculation that it flares up right after hurricanes, but it tends to start in October.
A few labs over at FGCU, Dr. Mike Parsons and his team are working hard to set up a post-hurricane analysis of local waters. He tells ABC Action News it's important to note that small red tide blooms happen around this time every year.
It occurs almost like clockwork.
But hurricanes can make things worse.
When you looked at Hurricane Irma in 2017, I think that was on September 10th, 2017. Red tide started blooming a couple weeks later, but then it just got bigger, lasted longer, and so the question was, it wasn't necessarily did Irma cause red tide, but did it exacerbate it?
And as they work to track Ian's impact, Dr. Parsons tells us while a bigger bloom is possible, pinpointing the cause right now isn't clear.
I think it's too soon to say there's a correlation. It's at least coincidental, though.
Are watching out for your health as scientists work to come up with new treatments for sexually transmitted infections. Scripps News correspondent Dan Grossman is showing us what a new drug could change for people seeking immediate relief from STI symptoms.
Some women who have unprotected sex and are worried about pregnancy take Plan B to prevent that from happening. Not everyone agrees with its use, but research shows the method is 89% effective if taken within 72 hours. This new STI drug works similarly in the sense that if it's taken within 72 hours of unprotected intercourse, it can reduce the chances of getting a sexually transmitted infection like chlamydia, gonorrhea, or syphilis by 65%. The drug is called doxycycline. It's not a new drug, as it's historically been used to treat things like anthrax exposure, malaria, and acne. But a new study shows it could be used to prevent STIs when taken before a diagnosis.
What we're doing right now isn't working. So I think we need new tools and awareness so that we can do a better job controlling sexually transmitted infections.
Dr. Annie Lutkemeyer is the infectious diseases physician who pioneered this study. This comes as rates of chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis in the U.S. have increased by 74% since 2017. Traditionally, most people only get treated for STIs if they notice symptoms, but this new method gets out ahead of the infection so the body can prevent it from occurring. In medical terms, it's known as post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP for short.
Is this the silver bullet that will solve the United States' STI problem? No, I don't think so. But might it reduce STIs in a population if rolled out in an appropriate way? I sure hope so.
It's important to note this study only looked at men who have sex with men, where STIs spread more rapidly than in other populations. So it's not known how it might work for heterosexual couples. However, other physicians like Dr. Kara Alexandrovic say it shows promise as a new way to treat STIs, since PEP is most commonly used to prevent pregnancy and victims of sexual assault.
It's really exciting for certain populations right now, and I think for a more widespread patient population, it's just exciting to think about future directions. You know, is this, like I said, applicable to other patient populations?
The study showed 2% of participants stopped taking doxycycline due to side effects like rashes and sun sensitivity. It is currently a prescription medication and is not available over the counter. Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Denver.
A little bit of shower activity. It's very spotty. It was a lot more widespread earlier, but really the one spot I'm keeping an eye on is right along 29, right near Alligator Alley. You can see a couple pockets of some showers there. Actually, you can see that on our FDOT camera. If you look in the distance, you can see those two showers coming all the way down. So just, again, hit and miss here this evening. But the big story I'm continuing to follow is the feels like temperatures, thanks to that humidity out there, feeling like triple digits across southwest Florida here tonight. LaBelle, Arcadia feeling like 102, 99 here in Fort Myers, despite actual temperatures being in the upper 80s and low 90s at this hour. And if you're looking at the next couple hours, we're going to stay in the 80s all the way up until about midnight here tonight with that clear skies and humid conditions. I think ultimately we get down to about 78, but that won't be about until daybreak. And if you're thinking that sounds warm too, Andrew, well, normal temperature for the overnight this time of year is about 74 degrees, so 4 degrees above normal for you tonight. As for tomorrow, well, looking at another warm day as well, above normal temperatures by a few degrees as well. Low 90s to mid 90s across the area, though we are expecting, again, another showers and storms inland as well tomorrow as well. But most of us will be dealing with the heat, as if you're going to be working outside tomorrow, maybe even going to the beach. Feels like temperatures up into the triple digits again tomorrow. So I got some tips for you. Light, loose weight clothing, as well as making sure you stay hydrated, limiting those outdoor activities during the peak times of the day, doing some rest and stopping, taking a break. If you're doing any strenuous activities, make sure you cool yourself down. Also making sure you watch your kids and dogs, pets if you're in the car, especially during the heat of the day. Looking at the beach forecast, though, if you're looking to cool off, maybe hitting the Gulf, 87 degrees, that Gulf temperature, a little warm there, but at least cooler than the air. Lightning risk is low, as well as rip currents, looking at the surf right around 1 foot or less. As for the day itself, though, I do expect mostly sunny skies to start the day into the midday hour, but you get towards about 1 o'clock. That's when we'll be watching shower storms bubbling up. Glades, Henry, Inland, Collier County, pushing out towards Lake Okeechobee. Could see some heavier downpours out towards Clewiston, Moorhaven through about 3 o'clock. And then these storms are going to be pushing off towards the East Coast, Miami, West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, as we're going to be pretty quiet here in Southwest Florida. So really, this big story is going to be any rain chances for you in towards the early afternoon, and you can see upwards of maybe a quarter inch to an inch worth of rain under these locally heavy downpours out there tomorrow. But looking at the week ahead, really about 50% chance of rain each and every day. Thursday looks like the drier day, but still temperatures going to be elevated right around the mid 90s pretty much each and every day, with those feels like temperatures continuing to be up into the triple digits with elevated humidity.
Shipping later this summer could be a major problem. This week, the Teamsters Union is holding a vote on whether to authorize a strike against UPS. About 6% of the country's GDP moves in UPS trucks. A strike, if it happens, would start around back-to-school season, and as retailers start to gear up for the holidays. The current contract at UPS expires August 1st. For 48 hours, thousands of Reddit forums are dark in protest of how the site is being run. Reddit plans to charge millions of dollars in fees for some third-party apps to continue accessing the site. It is the largest user-driven protest to hit the social media platform. A first-of-its-kind program in New York will charge drivers entering Lower Manhattan. The toll is known as congestion pricing. The plan has been delayed for years, but now has the go-ahead from the Biden administration. Toll rates are being finalized.
A third of Americans with credit card debt say they have not told a single person how much they owe. That's according to a survey from NerdWallet, which found this creates feelings of shame. But the reality is there's a lot of people going through the same thing. An estimated 98 million Americans have credit card debt. Reducing the stigma around it could help prevent it from getting any worse.
For example, if people or loved ones or friends don't know that you're currently in debt and they're inviting you out to make those pricey purchases, whether at a dinner or a wedding, for example, and in those cases, you might not be met with much understanding if they're not aware of your circumstances.
She says in some cases, talking with people close to you can also help you come up with solutions to paying debt off. NerdWallet's survey also found many couples are hiding credit card debt from each other. That can affect the money you spend as well.
It can impact finances if you're not working together as a team to pay off that debt. So it really just depends on your own personal circumstances.
She says speaking with professionals about debt can also be a good option. That can include a certified financial planner, a credit counselor, or a financial therapist.
It's at 6. Former President Donald Trump's legal team is about to see yet another shakeup.
Now that the former president is in Florida awaiting to step into a federal courthouse, we'll explain why he's short a lawyer that can practice in a certain part of our state.
And tonight, Fox 4 is following through for you with flood-prone areas of Cape Coral and projects put on hold after Hurricane Ian. We now have a better idea about the city's plan going forward to help with the flooding, but is it quick enough for residents to keep their belongings above water? The answer's ahead on Fox 4 News at 6.
Former President Donald Trump is officially in Florida, ready to face his federal criminal charges in court. From the legal proceedings in the courtroom to security now setting up outside, we're live with team coverage.
Plus, what was supposed to be just a simple ride home turned into a night of horror for one woman who says she was beaten and raped.
She was in a fight for her life.
What we know about the suspect tonight.
And one city is opening up about the lessons it learned from Hurricane Ian and the pledge to learn what it can fix.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6 on this Monday. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I'm Shari Armstrong. We are now just about 21 hours away from former President Donald Trump's arrival at a Miami federal courthouse to answer to that 37-count indictment returned by a grand jury.
Trump is now officially back in Florida tonight, and we have team coverage learning more about why the charges were filed here in the Sunshine State to begin with, and the security concerns that are now growing larger leading up to his court appearance.
Trump landed at Miami International this morning. He's staying at his Doral resort tonight. The former president is expected to meet with his lawyers and discuss a new Florida-based legal team, as they need a lawyer who can practice in our state's Southern District. We want to take you live right now to the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. United States Courthouse in Miami. When the former president does step inside of this building and into a courtroom here, he is expected to have attorney Todd Blanche with him. Blanche is a white-collar criminal defense lawyer and a former federal prosecutor.
Now, before tomorrow afternoon's hearing is scheduled for 3 p.m., the former president will officially be booked and processed. And in anticipation of his arrival, this is how the scene unfolded today, right outside that federal courthouse that we saw the live shot that Shari was just talking about. Not only police on hand taping off parts of the yard leading up to that building, but CNN is reporting that U.S. Marshals and Secret Service arrived throughout the day as well. Also today, law enforcement says there is a growing concern over a large number of Trump supporters who are expected to gather outside the courthouse. Yesterday, in a radio interview with his former advisor, Roger Stone, Trump asked people to come out and protest peacefully. Stone immediately then added, it is essential to, quote, keep it peaceful, civil, and legal. You're going to want to stay with us here on Fox 4 News at 6 throughout the hour. We're going to have more coverage about the indictment of former President Trump. We'll also take you live to the courthouse here in just a bit for more on what to anticipate ahead of tomorrow's historic court appearance.
Back here, Nadine, in Southwest Florida, a ride home from a Fort Myers nightclub turned into a total nightmare for one woman. I want you to listen to the story. The Lee County Sheriff's Office says someone kidnapped this woman and then raped her. Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee explains what deputies know about this case that has now landed 24-year-old Julio Velasquez in jail.
I am outside of that club where deputies say that woman was waiting on a ride, and a man approached her saying that he would take her home. But deputies said instead he took her to the woods and raped her.
I mean, it's bone chilling. It makes the hairs on your arms stand up.
Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino says that was his reaction after seeing the photos of a woman who was raped and beaten after leaving this nightclub.
Just the act of the battering of a woman. I mean, that's a sick mentality.
Now Julio Velasquez is behind bars for that raping and beating. Sheriff Carmine Marcino tells Fox 4 the victim was leaving out of a club on Palm Beach Boulevard and didn't have a ride home. And that was when Velasquez approached her.
He said, I know you. I can take you somewhere. I can take you home.
According to LCSO, the two didn't have a relationship, but probably knew the same people. While on the way, she realized Velasquez was not taking her home.
The driver pulled over in a secluded area near Bayshore Road and Pritchett Parkway.
And that was when the victim armed herself with a broken bottle, begging and pleading. Sheriff Carmine Marcino says she was overpowered and the suspect punched her several times until he knocked her out.
She was in a fight for her life. The victim awoke to the suspect raping her with his hands around her neck, threatening to kill her.
Yeah, that was Brianna Brownlee with that story. Well, tonight the investigation continues into events that led up to a Cape Coral police officer shooting and killing a 73-year-old man who they say pulled a gun on officers over the weekend. This all happened Sunday night on Northeast 5th Lane near Pine Island Road in Del Prado. Cape Coral police responding to a call about two roommates having a disagreement. When they arrived, they say they found Roland Henry Howell intoxicated. Officers say he then pulled a gun on them, and that's when they shot him several times. Cape Coral PD says this was the third time they had been called to that location over the weekend. Now, the officers were not injured in this officer-involved shooting, and they say Howell's roommate was outside when the shooting happened. Those officers involved, though, are now on administrative leave. This is per Cape PD protocol.
And throughout the afternoon, I've been tracking shower activity for you inland. Really, the only showers that I am seeing right now, though, is up along Alligator Alley, and these are continuing to push off to the east. But if you are heading across the alley, can't rule out a couple showers for you. But some of us got some decent rain today. It's close to Porto La Belle, Ave Marie, close to an inch worth of rain. Even places like Vanderbilt Beach got about half an inch worth of rain. But this evening, it's pretty nice outside. If you look across the Caloosahatchee, the only caveat to all that is the humidity. We're seeing dew points right around 73 degrees, which is somewhere between that humid and soupy range, which means those feels like temperatures, well, they're just dropped out of the triple digits, but still feeling like 99 degrees in Fort Myers and Naples and 98 in Port Charlotte, despite those actual temperatures being in the upper 80s at this time. But I do expect to stay in the 80s as we roll into about midnight here tonight, ultimately getting down into the upper 70s. But these humid temperatures, these feels like temperatures up into the triple digits, they're here to stay this week. I'll break it down coming up.
Well, many of you have shared your Cape Coral flooding concerns with us, so this next story is not going to be what you want to hear. But Fox 4 has learned tonight that project meant to fix those problems is now delayed. Last year, Fox 4's Colton Chavez explained the city's plan to improve drainage on Hancock Bridge Parkway. And following through tonight, Colton is live once again from that part of the Cape. And Colton, city leaders say all projects are back on track, but not necessarily on time.
Shari, and I'll tell you one thing that is on time. We just heard certified meteorologist Andrew Shipley talk about it. It's those afternoon storms. So for people living here on Hancock Bridge Parkway, they say with those afternoon storms comes again that threat for flooding. So to dig deeper for you tonight, I learned that the city of Cape Coral, when they're trying to fix problems like here on Hancock Bridge Parkway, we won't even see construction start for at least another 6 months. In Cape Coral, the soundtrack for summer afternoons can sound a lot like this. But what you see looming in the dark clouds, for people like Rafael Rodriguez, who lives on Hancock Bridge Parkway,
first, I'm worried.
He's worried about this. Just last week, we showed you flooding captured on Rafael's cell phone, which he says is from afternoon storms that were supposed to be fixed by a Cape Coral drainage improvement project. A project including 7 others a City of Cape Coral spokesperson now tells me was delayed so city efforts could be focused around Hurricane Ian.
5 minutes or hard raining, it's full of water in the street.
Last year was when I first spoke with Rafael about his flooding concerns, back on September 14th, just 2 weeks before Hurricane Ian. Cell phone video from back then mirrors what Rafael says he's seeing now.
All properties are going to be messy.
A mess the city of Cape Coral is working to clean up, telling me all of the flooding and drainage projects are now back on track. But says Hancock Bridge Parkway construction won't begin until after the final drainage improvement design, which the city hopes to have complete by December of this year. For Rafael, he says that means placing sandbags like he did last year to keep floodwater from entering his home is something he will have to do again to weather the daily storms.
I'm going to put in the front, only to stop the wave, not the water.
And with all of these stories, we continue to ask the same question, and that is, what should people do if they're experiencing flooding? And the City of Cape Coral spokesperson with the city tells us that they should call the city's call center by dialing 311. The other piece of information that they continue to tell us, not only here in Cape Coral, but around Southwest Florida, is for residents who experience flooding, you should allow up to 3 days of flooding in your front yard before you make any of those calls to the city. Now, that is a piece of information that we continue here at Fox 4 to dig more into, and we'll give you more information as it becomes available. But for now, live in Cape Coral tonight, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Colton, one of our award-winning journalists there for getting answers and pushing for answers for change. Thank you so much, Colton. All right, we want to take you a little north to Pinellas County tonight, where a woman is recovering after being shot 11 times Southwest Florida.
And this is an incredible story because despite being shot that many times, she was strong enough to get to her neighbor's house, who was able to call 911. JJ Burton has the story on how she survived.
You got the SWAT team, drones, a mobile command unit, deputies blocking Park Boulevard, and the parking lot at Oakhurst United Methodist Church packed with deputies.
It's interesting to be woken up at 2 a.m. by police lights outside.
And this is the scene right outside of Kayla McClure's house Sunday morning.
And for me, it's a little more scary because, I mean, I live here and now I'm having to see all the people and stuff, so it's scary to know like what's going on just down the street from us.
Around 1:30 in the morning, Pinellas County deputies were called out to this house on 134th Street North, about a block away from McClure's house. Chief Deputy Paul Haley says a woman living here was shot 11 times in multiple places, including her head. He says she was still able to go get help.
It's amazing. You think of somebody who's been shot that many times that is still able to walk out of her house, walk across the street to the neighbor and tell them what happened.
According to the sheriff's office, the suspected shooter is Wayne Lavelle Dew. Chief Deputy Haley says Dew and the victim are related, but they are not releasing how at this time. He says the victim was able to tell deputies that Dew was still in the house with several guns and rifles before EMTs rushed her to the hospital. Knowing that he could be armed, deputies couldn't just go in the house, which is why this standoff lasted for nearly 10 hours.
It's just not the safest way to go. We do a slow and methodical, sneak and peek, get all the information we can get. With our negotiator team, we try to establish contact for several hours, because the safest way is to get somebody in the house, out of the house, without sending the SWAT team in.
Once inside, deputies found Dew dead with a single gunshot wound to the head. They believe he shot himself. The woman is expected to survive.
It's sad. It's a sad situation.
Well, in less than 24 hours, all eyes will be on the state of Florida as former President Trump is set to face his federal criminal charges right here in the Sunshine State.
So Fox 4 continues to follow through on this historic hearing. We have a live reporter on scene as protests and an increased security are already descending on Miami. Andrew.
Hey, you can get out in the water tomorrow. Well, it's going to be a warm day, but sunny skies for you up along the coastline. Seas 1 to 2 feet. Though I'm going to be tracking those temperatures, those feels like temperatures up into the triple digits. I'll break it down. Yep.
All right, you have to see this. This is in Polk County, where crews are closely watching this huge sinkhole that has opened up right near some homes and even a busy road in Lakeland.
Yeah, and you said huge. This is now about 75 feet wide and 120 feet deep. Tonight, records show a company that owns the land got a permit in April to drill a 400-foot well.
So the county thinks that drilling may have been the cause for the ground above it to ultimately cave in. As we know, sinkholes something that we see a lot here in Florida.
Right, and you know something else we see a lot here in Florida? This humidity and this heat right now. Yeah. I mean, I stepped outside about 7 o'clock this morning, and it was hot at that time.
It is really hot, and the humidity making it feel a lot hotter. For just a few of us, though, they're getting cooled off by some showers popping up in Collier County.
Maybe the alligators out in the middle of the Everglades, but that's about it. But yeah, you step outside, you start immediately sweating. Let's take a look, though, at the radar. We are seeing those showers and storms bubbling up inland Collier County, right up along Alligator Alley. These are pushing east away from us out towards basically the rest area that's right here. You're seeing maybe some of those showers, but let's take a look at the FDOT camera there. This is looking off to the east, and you can see those showers there bubbling on up. Again, quick heavy downpours if you are heading off to the east. But what we are also watching for you is the humidity here, and we all know what that means. Those feels like temperatures up near triple digits today. It come down slightly in the last hour, but still feeling like 99 degrees in Fort Myers and Naples, Golden Gate. How about 97 Punta Gorda for you, despite the actual temperatures being, say, in the mid-80s out towards Moorhaven and Lewiston, upper 80s closer towards the coastline. It's warm out there still at this hour, and going to stay warm through the night, as we're going to be seeing clear skies, humid conditions, still 82 degrees midnight here tonight. Ultimately, I'm thinking about 78 degrees, but that's not going to be until about daybreak. And if you're wondering where are we supposed to be, about 74, so above normal temperatures here tonight. And we're going to keep that trend in the forecast tomorrow as well. Low to mid 90s in the forecast, inland showers and storms for you, and those feels like temperatures up into the triple digits. So I got some tips for you to keep you on the cooler side. Some safety tips for heat exhaustion. Light colored clothing, loose fitting clothing as well that helps you to keep your body cool. Non-alcoholic fluids there. A lot of push the water, the Gatorade. Keep yourself hydrated there. Also take breaks if you're going to be out in the heat, or maybe find a place to cool off. One of those places could be the beach. Maybe you're getting in the Gulf there. It's not cool, but it's 87 degrees. It's cooler than the air at least. Looking at surf 1 foot or less, a low rip current risk out there on the beaches. As for tomorrow itself, it should be clear skies in the morning hours, though. You get towards about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That's when we'll be watching those shower storms bubbling up inland and then pushing out towards Lake O as we get in towards the evening hours. But I do expect if you're along the coastline, you're looking at pretty dry conditions. Really the focus, any storm activity is going to be off towards the east coast there tomorrow. So localized amounts upwards of about an inch worth of rain going to be Glades, Henry, inland Collier County out there tomorrow. As for the rain chances the rest of the week, though, 50% each and every day, but that's going to be inland storms primarily over the next couple of days. But we're also going to keep that humidity up into that humid range. So what does that mean for us? Well, those feels like temperatures that we saw today in the triple digits, they're going to stay in the triple digits Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even in towards the next weekend. So get ready for the heat over the next several days, because we're not really going to see those afternoon storms to cool us down. And all inland storms, temperatures going to be in the low to mid 90s across the area, guys.
All right, Andrew, thank you. Well, new this hour, the Florida-based organization Moms for Liberty is now on the list of extremist groups that is put out each year by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
And on the center's list, the Moms for Liberty chapter in Collier County. I'm going to give you a look at the center's website right now, because the group lists 28 different chapters, as you see here.
And you're getting a live look. This is a conservative group that pushes back against school curriculum that it believes could be harmful to children. Moms for Liberty, as you know, came out during the pandemic movement when they were going against mask mandates and options like that. But later this month at its summit in Philadelphia, 4 GOP presidential candidates are listed as a speaker, including Governor Ron DeSantis.
That's right. So tonight we are hearing from the co-founder of the group leading up to its annual gathering.
Arguing schools are now on the front lines of hatred and violence. The Southern Poverty Law Center has dubbed a dozen parental rights organizations as anti-government extremists in the center's annual report. Moms for Liberty is highlighted for harassing teachers and school officials, joining other organizations branded anti-LGBTQ, neo-Nazi, and anti-immigrant on the law center's hate map.
We are letting it kind of roll off our back in a sense, because it's just ridiculous. When you look at the people listed at the top of the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, of those that are considered in their hate group, it's members of the KKK.
The SPLC touts its legal advocacy in the fight for civil rights, but has faced multiple defamation lawsuits for its hate labeling. The conservative nonprofit Family Research Council, a longtime target of the SPLC, has launched a petition calling to investigate the Center for Anti-Conservative Bias. Founded in Florida in 2021, Moms for Liberty now boasts more than 100,000 members and chapters in 40-plus states. Activists have pushed to remove books and curriculum in school that they deem controversial or not age-appropriate, some dealing with sexuality or gender issues. The nonprofit has emerged to be politically influential. GOP White House hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy holding a town hall with the group today in the first-in-the-nation primary state of New Hampshire.
I'll tell you, if you're a hate group, count me in. We can take that actually as a badge of honor for where we are today as a country.
Moms for Liberty will host a national summit later this month, and speakers include several Republican candidates for president, including former President Trump. In Boston, Molly Line, Fox News.
Well, the countdown to Donald Trump's arrival at a federal courthouse in Miami is ticking. Coming up next, we will take you live to Miami with what we can expect when Trump steps in front of a judge. All right, our top story tonight, all eyes on Miami as former President Trump has settled into Trump National Doral Resort tonight. So he's officially in Florida.
Right. That is about 25 minutes from where we find Florida 24 Network's Sophia Hernandez, who's actually at the courthouse where Trump is expected to be tomorrow. And Sophia, we know security's increased there, and you've got the latest on just what we can expect.
Yeah, good afternoon. If you are from Miami or if you've been to Miami, you know that the major hurdle that this city faces to really get around anywhere is the traffic. Now, the City of Miami and Miami Police Department have said that since the announcement of former President Donald Trump's indictment, they have been prepared for any traffic delays and any potential crowds that could amount from anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000 individuals. Now, officials here want residents and really the whole country to know that there is nothing to be worried about and they have everything under control.
There's no reason to fear.
The City of Miami and Miami Police Department showing a unified front Monday, saying they have experienced events of this magnitude before and expect this to be no different.
In our city, we obviously believe in the Constitution and believe that people should have the right to express themselves, but we also believe in law and order. And we know that, and we hope that tomorrow will be peaceful.
Law enforcement did not specify how many personnel will be tasked with manning the roads and grounds close to the courthouse. But the city's PD, the county police department, and fire rescue will be working as a unified force. The focus now is on developing strategies to deal with crowds of any magnitude, which the police department does not believe will be unruly.
Make no mistake about it, we're taking this event extremely serious. We know that there is a potential of things taking a turn for the worst, but that's not the Miami way.
On Monday at the courthouse, there were no crowds in sight, but 25 minutes to the west at Trump's National Doral Resort, crowds of Trump supporters already made themselves visible. The city of Doral telling me Doral PD is currently monitoring the situation very closely and will have police presence in potentially impacted areas to ensure safety for all. The City of Miami warns those on the road to expect traffic delays as the former president and his supporters make their way to downtown Miami. As for outside of the courthouse, yellow caution tape already lines the entrance and blocks off sidewalks. Police say at this time there are no plans for metal barricades or concrete structures, but they do have plans for if crowds become unruly, separating protesters from supporters. As of Monday afternoon, the City of Miami has not received any protest permits. The city wants to make it clear they want residents to use their First Amendment rights safely.
We are ready, and we're ready for it to be over and gone.
As far as roads in specific will be closed, the Miami Police Department says that they will be making those alerts out on their social media and will be making those determinations based on the crowds and their sizes. Now, as far as here outside of the courthouse, we could expect those crowds as soon as noon tomorrow. Of course, we'll be bringing you the latest details right here in Miami. Sophia Hernandez reporting.
Sophia, thank you so much. Still to come here in Fox 4 News at 6 tonight, the city of Northport is candidly, very honestly, addressing the problems they faced during Hurricane Ian, from lack of communication to loss of power in the emergency operations centers.
Yeah, we have the solutions that city leaders have now come up with ahead of the next storm.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for trusting us here in Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Shari Armstrong.
And I'm Nadine Yanis. As we continue to recover from Hurricane Ian, now close to 9 months later, the city of Northport is candidly reflecting on the successes and learnings from their shortfalls after Ian.
And one of those shortfalls, the mayor says the Emergency Operations Center actually lost communication and power.
Yeah, shortfalls like this, the mayor is addressing tonight with Fox 4's Caitlin Knapp in studio, explaining what those were and now the solutions.
It's hard to believe this is what I-75 looked like right after Ian. The Myakka River was 12.8 feet high, shutting down the highway, flooding cars, and forcing airboats on the water to rescue people. It's experiences like this the city is learning from as they find ways to fix issues they had from Ian.
Water just keeps coming up, and they're pretty much needed to be rescued, get out of there.
An experience from Ivan Bailey on September 30th, 2 days after Ian, a near Category 5 hurricane that came with challenges for people living in Northport.
Boy, did we learn a lot.
And the people who serve the city, like Mayor Barbara Langdon.
What went really well was immediately after the storm, people really pulled together.
With successes she feels came shortfalls.
If you don't acknowledge what went wrong, then you can't learn from it and you can't fix it.
For example, she says the Emergency Operations Center running out of City Hall lost power, generators failed, and communication wasn't up to par.
Staff had to move from City Hall to one of our community centers that wasn't in better shape, and that's really totally unacceptable.
Structures eroded, roads flooded, even shutting down I-75.
So we need to make sure that that area never gets impacted again.
Langdon hopes to do that with community input.
In any disaster, information sharing is key.
From long-term rebuilding workshops like this held on Monday, though some ideas, the mayor says, comes down to money in order to improve the city.
Enhancing our communication infrastructure at City Hall.
She also wants to upgrade the city's infrastructure, utilizing a local radio station.
Aligning and integrating our infrastructure so that the city can break into WKDW's programming in times of emergency.
Emergencies like Hurricane Ian, a storm we can all learn from as we prepare for what's potentially ahead.
It's not a matter of if, it's really more a matter of when.
To make sure the Emergency Operations Center is better equipped to handle a storm and not work out of City Hall, Langdon wants to have a freestanding building. She also hopes to come up with a communication plan, not only for the city of Northport, but the organizations helping when we need it most. Reporting in studio, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
Caitlin, during your story, the three of us were just talking because we were watching that in real time right after Hurricane Ian hit, that flooding just slowly rising in Northport. I remember how concerned you were, Andrew, at the time.
It was all three of us together, so we were watching people getting saved. And the thing that kind of snuck up on really all of us is the rain from after Ian made landfall up north in our state.
Right.
It came back down, so it was 2 days later we started seeing all this crazy flooding.
Right, and the thing was we saw all the flooding from the surge, and then this was inland and dealing with the same kind of thing.
And kind of catching some folks off guard there, and that's where Northport is saying, hey, look, we could do it better this next time.
And that's good that they're doing
that,
absolutely. For sure, 100%. But what I am tracking here for you is not rain like that, but we are seeing showers and thunderstorms bubbling up in Collier County. A lot of this inland pushing off to the east, kind of the sea breeze collision there, right up along Alligator Alley, and you can see some of that heavier downpours associated with this. Actually, we can see this on our FDOT camera, and if you look on the left side there, that's where we are seeing again, that heavy rain coming down for you at this time. But this is not the only showers and storms that we've seen out there today. Check out some of the rainfall totals. Port LaBelle just shy of an inch, as well as Ave Marie. Downtown Cape Coral getting about 3/4 of an inch today. Even Vanderbilt Beach about half an inch worth of rain. But the other big story I'm tracking for you is the humidity. We've been seeing those dew points anywhere from 70, 75 degrees, which is that humid, soupy range, which has been leading to those feels-like temperatures up near triple digits all day long, and we're still seeing those feels-like temperatures up near 99 degrees. What are we expecting the rest of the week in terms of those feels-like temperatures? I'll tell you that coming up.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much. Well, Coming up, a water main break in Fort Myers has an area around Rockville Road under a boil order notice tonight. Take a look at the screen here. You're going to get an idea of the area we're talking about. It's going to be highlighted here in red. Now, while the water main break is getting fixed, you want to make sure that if you are not using boiled water, that you boil any of the water you could use for cooking, drinking, even brushing your teeth. Of course, we will let you know when the repairs are made, those lines are flushed, and that boil water notice is lifted.
Taking a look across the state today, Governor Ron DeSantis ordered flags to be flown at half staff on what actually marks 7 years. It's hard to believe since the Pulse nightclub mass shooting in Orlando. On June 12, 2016, a gunman stormed into the popular club and opened fire. 49 people were killed on that Latin night at Pulse. 52 others were injured. Orlando's mayor honoring the victims and survivors on social media today. So many speaking out. We also heard from President Biden in a statement today. He renewed calls for, quote, common sense reforms on what he calls Pulse Remembrance Day.
Well, Republicans vying for the GOP presidential nomination, including Governor Ron DeSantis, solidifying their positions regarding the Trump indictment. This before he steps in front of the judge tomorrow afternoon. Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders is in Tallahassee with how some of these GOP candidates rush to the president's defense, while others say it's time for Trump to bow out of the race.
The former president kept his campaign stops over the weekend. Though Donald Trump's 37-count federal indictment loomed large, an unprecedented criminal allegation Trump labeled as ridiculous, while calling special counsel Jack Smith, quote, deranged in a personal attack.
And I watched him yesterday go up and talk. He talked for about 2.5 minutes. He was shaking. He was so scared. He didn't want to be there because ultimately these are cowards.
Trump's political rivals also weighing in, some running to his aid, not wanting to alienate the former president's base ahead of the primary.
And is there a different standard for a Democrat Secretary of State versus a former Republican president?
Governor Ron DeSantis in North Carolina drew a parallel to the Hillary Clinton email scandal, though the former Secretary of State's emails weren't deliberately withheld and there wasn't evidence of obstruction.
I think there needs to be one standard of justice in this country. Let's enforce it on everybody and make sure we all know the rules.
Longshot candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, meanwhile, vowed to pardon Trump if convicted, alleging a political motive.
Reading that indictment and looking at the selective omissions of both fact and law, Dana, I'm even more convinced that a pardon is the right answer here.
Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who's called on Trump to drop out, couldn't disagree more.
It is simply wrong for a candidate to use the pardon power of the United States, of the president, in order to curry votes and in order to get an applause line.
Others like Chris Christie weren't buying Trump's victim claims. The former New Jersey governor called the case facts devastating.
People are going to argue about who should and who should not have been indicted and who should be tried. But let me say this. The bigger issue for our country is this the type of conduct that we want from someone who wants to be president of the United States?
Ultimately, that question will be left to the voters as the 2024 GOP primary moves into uncharted waters, and the frontrunner's arraignment is now only hours away. At the Capitol, I'm Forrest Saunders, Fox 4.
As for the Democrats and their response, well, for now, the White House is staying quiet. Officials say they found out about the indictment the same way everyone else did, through news coverage and social media.
Well, June marks Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, so we're focusing on what you can do now when it comes to prevention. So coming up, the small changes that you can make in your everyday life and how they play an important role in the health of your brain. Andrew?
Take a quick look at the tropics. Good news is no tropical development expected over the next 7 days, but what about our rain chances here locally? I'll tell you that coming up.
All right, this is a pretty great program. The Southwest Florida International Airport is providing extra help with those who might have hidden disabilities tonight.
So this is called the Sunflower Program, and it's designed to let others know when a traveler might have a non-visible disability. So basically, the person traveling gets a sunflower printed on something like a lanyard or a badge, and this is just a small sign indicating that person could use some extra assistance.
And it could range from those who might have sensory conditions, autism, epilepsy, maybe limited hearing or vision, and more. And it is all voluntary, so any traveler that wants to take part of this, all you can do is just go ask for a free sunflower lanyard or badge at the airport's visitor information booth.
You know what? A lot of people are traveling here now for our weather that feels like perfection to some coming from different parts of the country. But for us, it feels like legit humidity right now.
Well, I want to get on the plane and leave. Just
get me out of here.
Ready to cooler weather.
Ooh, it is hot outside.
It is. It's been toasty. You step outside in the morning hours and you feel it already. But the other thing we are watching, it is our rainy season. We are seeing a bit of a sea breeze collision up along Alligator Alley there in Collier County. So if you are traveling out towards, say, Miami area, you could run into some showers and thunderstorms in and around that. But most of us are not seeing that. They're seeing the sunshine. Let's take a look here in the Cape, and you are looking at beautiful blue skies. But little do you know, when you step outside, you start sweating immediately because the humidity is up. Those feels like temperatures here in the Cape, 98 degrees still at this hour, feeling like 99 in Fort Myers, even LaBelle. Not much better. Moorhaven, Lewiston, lower 90s. But if you look at the actual temperatures, we're in the mid 80s out towards Lake O, 89 degrees here at Fort Myers. So it doesn't feel as bad when you look at those numbers, but it's definitely warm out there with the humidity. But next couple hours, only cooling into the lower 80s by midnight tonight. Is going to be a warm night for us, a humid night, ultimately getting temperatures down to 78, but that's not going to be until about daybreak tomorrow morning, and looking about 4 degrees above normal in terms of those temperatures. But take a look at tomorrow afternoon. Highs, well, looking at 90 degrees Cape Coral, 93 Lehigh, Arcadia, 95 degrees. Then you add in the humidity, and we're feeling like triple digits. Say 105 feels like in LaBelle tomorrow afternoon, 103 Golden Gate, even Cape Coral, 102. So if you're going to be working outside, well, you don't want that light colored clothing, loose fitting clothing as well. Plenty of fluids, Gatorades, waters, keeping yourself hydrated, limiting those outdoor activities, especially during the peak heating time of the days there. Also taking that stop and rest, taking your breaks during any strenuous work, making sure your kids are accounted for in the cars as well as your pets, and just maybe stay in the air conditioning during those peak heating times of the day, keep you nice and cool there as well. But if you're looking to go to the beach tomorrow, water temperature is about 87, so maybe that cools you down a little bit. But looking at not a bad day in terms of rip currents, looking at low risk there, surf 1 foot or less with those southwest winds about 5 to 10. As for the sky conditions, well, we are looking at sunny skies to start the day, but you get towards about noontime to 1 o'clock. That's when we'll be watching shower storms again bubbling up inland and then pushing out towards the east, out towards Lake O. So 2 o'clock, Glades, Henry, inland Collier County, seeing those showers and storms, and then they'll push off towards the east coast. So we should be relatively dry if you do have plans up along the coastline for you tomorrow evening. Looking ahead towards the rest of the week, we do expect these warm temperatures to stay with us, right around low to mid 90s over the next 7 days. Inland showers and storms, but the humidity, that's going to stay with us, meaning feels like temperatures all the way in through the weekend, looking at triple digit feels like temperatures, so you want to stay cool from the heat.
Andrew, thank you so much. All right, this next story I really want you to see, because some people are calling this a miracle, and I want to say some people includes me, because what you're about to see is truly remarkable. It left me speechless when I read it.
I know. So we're talking about the fact that 4 children who survived a small plane crash were found alive in the Amazon jungle. So Bill Mulligan has the story and explains how they managed to stay alive for more than a month. We're talking about 40 days, all on their own.
It's an emotional ending to a search and rescue saga that captivated Colombia and much of the world. 4 children survived a plane crash that killed 3 adults, then somehow survived in the remote Amazon jungle by themselves for 40 days before being rescued by Colombian soldiers. The children, ages 13, 9, 4, and 12 months, ate mostly seeds and fruit. They were severely malnourished when they were found.
The first thing they told us was that they were hungry. They wanted to eat rice pudding. They wanted to eat bread. The thing on their mind was to eat.
And we're starting to get more information about how they survived. In limited conversations with family, the children describe hiding in tree trunks to protect themselves from snakes and mosquitoes. The 13-year-old also says their mother survived for 4 days after the crash. But doctors say it's going to take time to get the full story.
They're weak, although they want to play. When a child plays, it's wonderful. They still don't talk as much as you would like them to. Let's give them time.
Colombia's president is hailing the children as a, quote, example of survival, while also highlighting the joint effort between Colombia's military and indigenous rescuers, two groups that have a history of conflict.
We believe a lot in the jungle, which is our mother. That's why I always had faith and said that neither the jungle nor nature has ever let me down.
And it's not clear exactly how long the children will remain hospitalized. A doctor said on Saturday that right now they are being rehydrated. Reporting in London, Bill Malugin, Fox News.
Yeah, and I read that 13-year-old knew her way around that jungle as well and helped keep her siblings alive. Really incredible.
Just glad they're okay. I mean, that feels like almost like watching a movie.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
Well, with more than 55 million people living with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, Fox 4 is always looking at ways that you can stay healthy.
So Fox 4 Morning anchor Lisa Greenberg kicks off our coverage this week in tonight's Your Healthy Family.
June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia and is a progressive disease that destroys someone's ability to think and remember. All this week, I'm focusing in on how exercise and diet play a role, when to know it's time to hire a caregiver for your loved one with Alzheimer's, and the questions to ask. But in today's Your Healthy Family, things you can do right now to prevent Alzheimer's. It's a diagnosis no one wants to hear for their loved one.
You don't know anything till you live it.
Alzheimer's disease. I showed you my grandma's story back in April. Her husband has it.
They call it the long goodbye for a reason.
And she says it's impossible to explain watching the person you love fade away. It got me wondering, are there things we can do right now to prevent Alzheimer's or dementia in the future? I asked Bright Star Care, an in-home care agency.
With Alzheimer's and dementia, brain games are so helpful.
Susan Nimnuin is the vice president of Bright Star Care in Fort Myers and Naples. She says these games keep your brain active.
Word puzzles or math puzzles, Sudoku, things like that are going to keep your brain active and stimulated. Those are going to help you prevent memory loss.
She says the more you stimulate your brain, the better chance you have at preventing dementia, but also making sure you give your brain time to recover by getting plenty of sleep.
Studies show that a good night's sleep allows the brain an opportunity to cleanse itself.
And that overnight deep cleaning can help in preventing Alzheimer's. Nimnuin says when you're in a deep sleep, fluids clean the toxins out of your brain. If you don't get enough of that deep sleep, she says a protein called beta amyloid starts to build up in your brain, turning into what are called plaques that cause Alzheimer's disease. Nimnuin also says diet plays an important role in preventing Alzheimer's and dementia. I'll have that story coming up in tomorrow's Your Healthy Family. For Your Healthy Family, I'm Lisa Greenberg.
So we can keep playing our late night cell phone games, my King's Crush.
I try to do a crossword puzzle. I tell myself it's good for the brain.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, here's what we're working on tonight for Fox 4 News at 10. We're talking about rainy season. It is here, and there are still plans in place to help flood-prone areas that are still on delay because of Hurricane Ian.
And tonight, Fox 4 is following through for you. We now have a better timeline about the city of Cape Coral's plan in one neighborhood. This is right off of Hancock Bridge Parkway that's been underwater quite a bit lately. Fox 4's Colton Chavez has been on this story talking to residents who scramble, they say, every time it rains to keep their belongings above water.
And we know we've had a lot of rain, so we thank you guys for joining us tonight on Fox 4 News at 6. We'll see you again tonight for Fox 4 News at 10.
Don't forget to stay hydrated, Southwest Florida.
Need some water.
Take
All right, we'll see you later. Former President Donald Trump is officially in Florida, ready to face his federal criminal charges in court. From the legal proceedings in the courtroom to security now setting up outside, we're live with team coverage.
Plus, what was supposed to be just a simple ride home turned into a night of horror for one woman who says she was beaten and raped.
She was in a fight for her life.
What we know about the suspect tonight.
And one city is opening up about the lessons it learned from Hurricane Ian and the pledge to learn what it can fix.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6 on this Monday. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I'm Shari Armstrong. We are now just about 21 hours away from former President Donald Trump's arrival at a Miami federal courthouse to answer to that 37-count indictment returned by a grand jury.
Trump is now officially back in Florida tonight, and we have team coverage learning more about why the charges were filed here in the Sunshine State to begin with, and the security concerns that are now growing larger leading up to his court appearance.
Trump landed at Miami International this morning. He's staying at